You're listening to a Comics XF podcast.
Matt Loswitz, and welcome to this week's episode of Bat Chat with Matt and Will, a Batman ranking podcast, where each week my co-host Will Nevin and I dig into 3 Batman stories, discuss them, and rank them on the big board, thus creating a giant list of Batman stories from best to worst. Will, what's going on tonight?
Yay, Matt. All right, I'm going to start first. 3 book recommendations. First, Tradwife, Saratoga Schaefer. I'm going to stay on that one because it's so good. Read it. The second one, Nothing Tastes as Good by Luc Dumas. Fascinating book, a horror story about an obese man with binge eating syndrome who tries a new weight loss drug with terrifying consequences. And then the final, Razorblade Tears by S.A. Cosby. An interracial gay couple is murdered and their daddies go on revenge and learn a little something about each other and how not to be homophobic, I think. I'm only like 50 pages in, so we'll see how that turns out. But it's good so far. Great little weird buddy cop dynamic. The main bit I have for you tonight, Iron City Comic Con, which is a con in Birmingham, Alabama. Look, I'm not here to shit on cons. I'm not much of a con goer myself. But it's a good industry. It's a good way to make a living. It's fun for fans. It's whatever it is. But all cons are not created equal. So what I want to do tonight, Matt, is I want to read the top 8 billed celebrity guest appearances in alphabetical order. And I want to see if you can put them in the same order of importance as the con promoters did.
Okay.
You understand the assignment?
Yes, you're going to give me 8 names. I will put, so not in the order that I believe that I am excited for them, but the order that logically they should be put in.
If you're trying to sell tickets to this here con, how are you going to organize these names?
All right. Let me grab a piece of scratch paper so I can write them down so I can then rank them.
Now look, I'm going to cop to this first. I don't know who all these people are.
Okay.
But I imagine you do because you're a smart boy, and I think some of these are voice talents, so I think you'll recognize them.
All right.
Okay, so alphabetical order. Mei Hong.
Oh, that's one of the K-pop demon hunters. That is... Okay.
Randy Quaid.
Okay. I mean, if this were 1990 something, that'd be great.
Christy Carlson Romano.
That one is not ringing any bells off the top of my head.
Chris Sarandon.
Ooh, okay.
John Schneider.
Okay.
Mark Shepard.
Ooh, okay. Love me some Mark Shepard.
Danny Trejo.
Oh, Danny Trejo.
Alex Winter.
Okay. Is that 8?
That's 8.
That is 8. All right. Well, I'm going to start off by, as I don't know who Christy Carlson Romano is, that's just going to go down to the bottom.
I'm going to look her up,
Please.
But I'll tell you this, she was number 5.
Okay, so right in the middle.
Known for her Disney Channel roles as Ren Stevens and Even Stevens and the voice of Kim Possible.
Oh, okay. I mean, there's a cult, there's a, late 90s, early aughts nostalgia thing there. I mean, of these names, I'd say Chris Sarandon's the Princess Bride, Fright Night. I mean, this is a guy who's been involved in some serious major cult movies. So I would put him probably, let's say he's number 1.
Number 4.
Okay. Danny Trejo, then. Since I already know he's not number 1, I'm going to say he's number 2.
On this list, Danny Trejo's number 1.
Okay. I mean, that guy has done so many cult classics. Absolutely. Mark Shepard at 3.
Mark Shepard is 3.
All right. For those others who might not know him, Firefly, Supernatural, every genre. His first role was an episode of The X-Files, The Middleman, White Collar. Every genre, either spy, sci-fi, or horror show, Mark Shepard has appeared in at one point or another. He is a guy who would be an ideal Pete Wisdom. He's just a snarky Brit. All right, so that's 1, 2, 3.
Oh, wait, who do you have it to? Who would you put it to?
I said Danny Trejo at 2.
Well, in real life, Danny Trejo's at 1.
Right.
Randy Quaid is at 2.
Okay, I would have put Randy Quaid at nearer to the bottom, like 5 or 6. I'd say 6 because Randy Quaid hasn't done anything that anyone cares about since Independence Day, the National Lampoon, the Vacation movies. But
what was the bowling movie?
Kingpin?
Kingpin, there we go. And that's literally it. That is it.
If people readily recognize Mei Hong's name, she probably should have been number 1. But I don't think she has the name recognition of many of these others. So right now I have guessed 1, 2, 3, 6, and 8. Let's say Alex Winter well, I would say 4. He'd be next on my list, but that would put him. I'm just going to plug in numbers now. And so we know that Danny Trejo is 1.
Uh-huh.
Randy Quaid is 2.
Uh-huh.
Mark Shepard is 3. Chris Sarandon is 4.
Uh-huh.
Christy Carlson Romero is 5.
Uh-huh.
John Schneider at 6.
Mei Hong.
Okay. Mei Hong at 6. Then Schneider at 7.
Alex Winter.
Oh, okay. And then that makes Schneider 8. No offense intended, but between Pa Kent and the Dukes of Hazzard, I was figuring John Schneider had a certain je ne sais quoi for Alabama.
Well, it's strange because, right, this is a general sci-fi pop culture entertainment, con. There are 2 wrestlers here. At least for wrestling fans, they'd be household names. Kurt Angle and Sergeant Slaughter.
I'm not a wrestling guy, and I recognize both of those names.
Yeah, they are all the way at the bottom of the list of like an additional 30 or so guests. So it's hard out here for people.
That's interesting. I'm now curious to see. I'm going to their website to just have a look at who some of the other guests are. Okay, Power Ranger. Oh, it's interesting that they have. Oh, there it is. Okay, I was going to say, wait, Susan Egan's image doesn't have Rose Quartz from Steven Universe. Yeah, she does. Just really small.
Looks like the stuntman behind Mike Myers.
Adrienne Barbeau. No picture of Catwoman. I would have expected the BTAS Catwoman to be there for Adrienne Barbeau. All right. Oh, and Wallace Shawn had to cancel. That sucks. I would love to meet Wallace Shawn.
Inconceivable.
You keep using that word. I do not think it means what you think it means. Okay, that was an interesting little exercise. But we've yammered on for a few minutes, and we do have a guest.
Oh, we have a guest.
We do indeed. Let us say hello once more to friend of the show, Patreon backer, Matt McThorn. How's it going, Matt?
McThorny!
How's it going? I cannot believe you guys did not know who Christy Carlson Romero was, or Romano was. That is like direct from my childhood, though, so that could be part of it.
I'm a little bit older than Will, who's I believe a little bit older than you. Yeah, I mean, Kim Possible was, I would have just aged out of Disney cartoon. I mean, I never aged out of cartoons entirely. I was always there for my superhero cartoons, but I now have to see when Kim Possible aired.
I'm
2000.
31, so it was right when I was like in that like getting on towards tweens age. So.
Yeah, it was 2002 was when it debuted, and at that point, most of my cartoon watching was mostly either adult animation or the Justice League stuff. The last echoes of the classic DCAU would have been at that point Static, the last season of Static, most of Justice League. I think maybe the oft-forgotten Zeta Project might have been wrapping up at that point. the 2-season Batman Beyond spinoff that nobody remembers because it was
I've
really
never heard of that. Yeah.
it was 2 seasons. There was an episode, yeah, it was '01 and '02. There's an episode of Batman Beyond where there's a robot, a Zeta unit, which were these hunter-killer robots that develop sentience. And they actually spun it off into its own series for 2 years. McGinnis appears in maybe one episode,
Mm.
and Zeta has a plucky teen girl sidekick, and he's voiced by Diedrich Bader, so that's always good. And he's being chased by government agents, the leader of whom is Kurtwood Smith. And Michael Rosenbaum was one of those agents as well. So I think he would have been doing double duty on that show there and as the Flash over on Justice League at that point. And the Zeta robots, proto-Zeta robots wind up showing up in Justice League. Cadmus sends them out. And it's only there if you recognize them from beyond. It's like, hey,
Gotcha.
that's a Zeta robot. I specifically remember that because I've been listening to a Justice League rewatch podcast with Susan Eisenberg, the voice of Wonder Woman, and James Enstall, who has a geek pop culture radio show. And the guests, it's like, oh, and here's George Newbern, the voice of Superman, and here's Phil Lamar and Carl Lumbly and Marie Canales and all of the writers and directors of all these episodes. I would kill to have J.M. DeMatteis on my interview podcast, please. But yeah, but they were talking about an episode where the Zeta robots showed up in the one I listened to today. So it's like, oh yeah, I remember them using the Zeta robots. Yeah, it's a good show. It's fun to hear how much everyone appreciates the fans of this show and how much all of them miss Kevin Conroy. Comes up all the time. Anything else for you, Will? Anything from you, Matt, before we get into the meat of the episode?
I had a question for you guys that is related to Patreon bonus episodes.
Sure.
Because you guys have popped the top on Batman adjacent media.
Yeah, we do weird shit now.
It's great. What do I have to do to convince you guys to watch Batman adjacent episodes of the Venture Brothers? Because there are several.
Oh.
Speaking of animation.
Oh, the Captain Sunshine episode would be brilliant.
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Oh.
The one where Hank is the Bat.
Oh, yes. Oh, have you watched much Venture Brothers, Will?
I would catch it occasionally, but it always seemed to be like the same 4 or 5 episodes that were at the very beginning of the run. So I think as it got weirder, I didn't really catch many of those episodes.
Back half of season 2 is where it really hits the ground running. The first little bit is much more of a parody than it is its own thing.
The guy from Labyrinth just turned into a bird and flew away. I am adding that onto my document of proposed ideas because I can always rewatch some Venture Brothers. And that is, and again, I just talking about him, but Kevin Conroy as the voice of Captain Sunshine.
Yep.
Any opportunity.
Well, chaos achieved, so.
This week, we're sticking a little closer to Batman Home, although we've got some moving away from the traditional Bat narrative and, at least in one story, a traditional Batman.
It's as pretty weird as Batman goes and not an Elseworld.
Yeah. Matt wanted to talk about stories from DC's Future State event. So we're reading 3 of the Bat family related Future State minis. For those out there who weren't reading comics at the time or aren't as familiar with it, Future State was another one of these times where DC was like, hey, let's not publish any of our traditional books for a month or two and do a whole bunch of mini-series. The person who's worked in comic retail for many years balks at this because it is a great way for readers to not buy their comics for a couple months.
And this was also right after the pandemic.
Yes, this was right after the pandemic. This was bridging the gap in between the end of death metal and the Infinite Frontier era.
And was supposed to be the lead into 5G, from what I understand.
You are correct. which is one of the, I won't call them the sins of this event because they are not in themselves a sin. That was just, it was leading into an initiative that never happened. But it is one of the things that makes Future State in many places, in retrospect, now feel somewhat superfluous.
Well, it's clear, taking 5G into account, DC wanted to come out of this with 3 Batman, and they still just had the one when they were done.
Mhm.
The actual sins of the event, I think, are really twofold. And we'll get into it a little here, but it's more in the entire view of the event that there are various inconsistencies throughout this event.
Oh boy.
We'll see them in some of these with some of the characters who appear in the backups, in different backups, or in a main story and a backup where the versions of these characters don't line up. But also, it felt to me, having read the entire event, I read all of these books, there was not a coherent, we are looking at the future at a certain point. I wound up looking at the DC Wiki, and it says that the first of these books, there's flashbacks. The present of a couple of these books is the year 2027. And there's flashbacks to 2025. But nowhere do you see a little date Chiron that gives you when they take place.
Mm-hmm.
But some of these books, of the other titles, not necessarily the Bat titles, they all took place sort of in this realm. But some of these books take place in the year like 6400. Some take place at this point. Some take place at the end of time. There wasn't a coherent, like, let's get a snapshot of the DC universe in 5 years. And none of them really went out of their way to say, this is when this book takes place. So you had to kind of piece together, all right, is this book taking place at the same time as the other one, or is this one way off in the future? And not only did DC want multiple Batmen out of this, it wanted multiple Superman and multiple Wonder Woman. That you wanted both Clark and John Kent, which actually did happen, but it also wanted Diana and Yara Flor, the Wonder Girl Rising, to be Wonder Woman as well. And Yara Flor never took off, and I think a lot of that had to probably do with Batwoman syndrome of, we can't get this book to actually come out. So the character sort of died on the vine and is now an occasional supporting character in the Wonder Woman books.
And you certainly can't blame them. I mean, I think what they have now with Absolute Batman is what they wanted all along. They wanted another powerhouse Batman book that would sell just as well, if not better, than the contemporary traditional Batman book.
I think they probably would have gotten it if they weren't making it seem like 5G was going to be, we're replacing the traditional heroes. One of the things that makes Absolute work is, for people who still want your traditional Batman book, you can still read Fractions Batman and get your, traditional Bruce Wayne doing Batman stuff book. But if you want to read something like Absolute, you're able to get the other take. But when it seemed like they were saying is that Jace Fox is going to be Batman and Bruce Wayne is retired or dead or whatever, there will always be people who are going to balk at replacing the traditional icons. And you can even do stories where that traditional icon sort of goes on the back burner. Barry Allen isn't the Flash anymore again. It's Wally is the Flash. Barry doesn't have his powers, and I don't think anybody is really complaining about that. But it's a whole messy sort of thing.
There also didn't seem to be, for lack of a better word, a showrunner for this event.
No. And there's one or two books that just don't fit. There is a Mark Russell Superman Emperor Lex or Lex Imperial that's a fun book, but it does not fit with anything going on with the other Superman titles.
And That's another thing that I think this event was trying to do too many things. I think we wanted to launch new ongoing books, and we also wanted to give new writers a tryout. And it's hard to do both of those things at the same time.
One of the interesting things from this for me, especially looking at it again, is the degree to which you can tell stuff that did come out of it into the Infinite Frontier relaunch and even immediately after that. But it's not really how it is in this book. It isn't even necessarily leading to that. I think the closest you get is some of the stuff in the Tiny and Batman would have led into this if it had gone the wrong way, I think is what it ended up landing on. But like the Catwoman story we're going to talk about, there's bits of that in Rom V's Detective Run, but it's more thematic than it is anything else.
It's Rom taking some of the stuff he was already doing in Catwoman, and
Yes.
some of the stuff that will play out in the balance of his run on Catwoman that he then took into Detective. The Catwoman one that we will talk about is one of the more seamless because its writer is the same writer of the book that it is spinning out of, while many of the others aren't. We are doing our normal 3 stories. There are 7 Batman Infinite Frontier books in the Bat family. We are covering less than half. We are not covering Batman Superman, Robin Eternal, Nightwing, or Harley Quinn.
There were a lot of Future State books.
Oh, there were 26. Afterwards, they wound up doing, I believe it lasted 18 issues, a Future State Gotham book that actually paid off the Future State Bat universe stuff, as it was the most somewhat cohesive of the universes.
And the Magistrate storyline was paid out in what? Detective?
Fear State.
Mostly Batman.
Yeah, Batman.
Oh, okay.
The end of the Tiny and Run. There is also stuff in Detective and a few of the other. There's a Nightwing arc that takes place during Fear State, and the Batgirls series spins out of Fear State. This version of the Magistrate all gets wrapped up in that Future State Gotham book, where we see what was happening with Bruce. We see all these. Well, it becomes a whole big thing. But let's actually get into the first of our stories of the night. The first story of the night is Dark Detective. This is Future State Dark Detective numbers 1 to 4. The writer is Mariko Tamaki, with art by Dan Mora, colors by Jordi Belair, letters by Aditya Bidikar, and edited by Ben Abernathy, Paul Kaminsky, and Dave Wielgus. The cover dates are March to April of 2021. 2 years after the apparent deaths of both Bruce Wayne and Batman, Bruce has put together a plan to fight against the Magistrate. This leaner, more focused Batman learns a dark secret that the Magistrate is keeping from Gotham, and he must stop it before the Magistrate closes its grip on the city. This is before Mariko Tamaki was the regular writer on Detective. Tamaki's run on Tech would start
Immediately after.
I couldn't remember if it was immediately if there was one last Tomasi arc.
I could be remembering wrong, but I'm pretty sure it was immediately after.
Yeah, that sounds right. That this is creatively leading right into the Tamaki Mora Tech. And this would be Mora's first Batman story. So, hey, I will always be happy to see Dan Mora art. Although, as good as it is here, you can see how his style has grown over the course of these 5 years. But still, he did all 4 of these issues that came out over 2 months. Dan Mora is a machine.
Yes. Can't say that about the other 4-issue story we'll take on tonight.
No.
Of all of the stories, I think this one visually gets across like the neon noir dystopia the best, because I think it conceptually envisions it the best as well. Like it has a plan in terms of what this thing is going to look like and how it's going to be this, this dystopia.
It is very focused on Bruce this has a very single focus, which will also not be something we see in the other four-part story we are doing tonight. And we'll get into why I think that is when we get to that story. This is a story, Will, that I feel like is kind of maybe not a complete softball across the plate for you, but this is a Batman whose tech is limited, who is scrounging, who has to like cobble together Batman tech from a CD player he found in the weird bunker he's living in.
He's got a cranky roommate.
Mm-hmm.
A cranky roommate who thinks the aliens are coming to get him.
Well, I mean, they are.
They're not aliens, but they are coming to get him, that's for sure. This does some of that. Let's show the present and the flashbacks and the present and the flashbacks, but I think it feels like it works a little better than we've seen that in some other stories.
It's odd though that we don't really talk about what Bruce was doing in those 2 years.
Yeah, we get what happened right after Peacekeeper 1 shot him,
Mm-hmm.
and then we get the present, more or less.
Like, what you been up to, buddy?
Well, living with paranoid Noah in his bunker and
Yeah.
putting
I mean, I
together
guess
his
we do need to have some type of elapsed time to explain how Gotham becomes this neo-noir hellscape, but you got to be doing something during that stretch.
I'd agree with you that it feels a little, not necessarily too long, but it doesn't track. Like the gap is more than it really feels like it is supposed to be.
that Bruce has done nothing for 2 years. And when we realize from other books that there is the resistance made up of all of his allies, how he didn't find them or why he didn't find them, I don't think is made clear. It's not like they're out in public. They're in hiding. So I don't know why he didn't go somewhere where he would have tried to find Dick and Tim and the rest. But I think that's not the story it's trying to tell. It wants to be this lean, just Bruce doing his thing story. And we don't see anybody else other than he has a brief interaction with the other Batman, with Jace Fox. But that felt more like this guy is the guy we're trying to put over. So
Yeah, we're trying to get him over.
Thank you. Get him over.
Make him look good.
So we need him to show up with Bruce at some point so the two of them can kind of square off.
For all of 3 pages, as happens every single time.
Those are also a little bit, not even frustrating pages. It is just something where, for all that they're trying to make the next Batman happen, his costume also, this might just be personal taste, but especially for this kind of story, also looks noticeably, it doesn't stand out nearly as much as what Bruce is wearing in this, which is a much more stripped down, scrappier, armored kind of tactical Batman costume. And the other doesn't really fit. It works better in the next Batman book, but in this one, it doesn't really mesh well with the aesthetic of the rest of the book, unfortunately.
For such a neon world, it's, I think, drab. Because the world in Next Batman isn't as approaching the Batman Beyond aesthetic as the Dan Mora's world here is. I also will state 2 moments that aren't frustrating to me now, but were frustrating to me at the time I first read this. One is magistrate is a singular noun. It's an organization. It should be the magisterium or magistrates. Calling it the magistrate made me kept wondering, is there a guy who is the magistrate who they're talking to or talking about, or is there an organization? And I remember reading this and saying, okay, they're keeping Peacekeeper 1's face covered and they're talking about him in all these hushed tones. This has got to be a guy we know from something. He's got to be a big deal. And then, no, he's just introduced in Infinite Frontier. It felt like, again, it was trying to get him over. It was front loading that this guy is going to be a big threat. So when we introduce him as a guy who feels frighteningly, depressingly prescient, as a guy who flunked out of the GCPD, who Gordon wouldn't let in because he was too dangerous, initially got a job as a prison guard because, yes, Arkham isn't technically a prison, but basically is Arkham security, so he's a prison guard, and then winds up getting a job as the front man for a paramilitary pseudo police force. Yeah, this guy would be walking around in a mask in any number of American cities right now looking for illegal immigrants.
Yeah. If I remember from the way that the story plays out, he's a pretty big dumb shitbag.
Oh yeah, he's a complete idiot, and Simon Saint is playing him. Only here there isn't any Simon Saint. I think he might be mentioned in one of these books, but he's not in any of these. He might be mentioned in one of the others. But they don't get into the Simon Saint, the Elon Musk backing it aspect of the book. And instead, it's just about these peacekeepers who aren't cops, but are cops, who are masked law enforcement agents who don't really have any oversight, which felt bad in 2021 and feels way worse in 2026, but not in the uncomfortable, like, oh, that was not a good thing, in the, well, fuck me, this has become reality in 5 years way.
Just think about what it's going to be in the next 5 years, Matty boy. He's glaring at me. Yeah, of all the 3 books, this I thought was the most traditionally Batman. I mean, the next story is certainly a solid one, because spoiler, it's Catwoman and it's a heist story, and of course it's going to be good. And it's by Ram V. Of course it's going to be good. But this I thought had good flow. It had some levity. It had some interesting characters. The only thing I probably didn't like is that Noah's daughter is always drawn with this same hard, harsh, angry look on her face. And yes, she is quite concerned about her father and what, quote, Jeff, unquote, might be doing to him. But I don't think it was called for at all of the moments in the script. So the facial expressions were a little bit off, at least in terms of her. But the rest of the story I thought was good.
Yeah.
I liked her as a character. I felt like she was underserved in the story. I think that there's a good idea that we get only in the last issue that she's been working at the magistrate, collecting data to bring them down for these past 2 years. And that only comes up in the last issue. We see Bruce tell her, stay here where you won't be found. And the next thing you know, when he's breaking into the magistrate himself, she's there. And it's great. You know,
that was a little confusing.
Yeah, that she obviously didn't listen to him, but we could have spent one panel seeing her leave to make it clear that, oh, she left. She didn't listen to crazy Jeff, who claimed he was Bruce Wayne. And she's like, yeah, Bruce Wayne dead. You've been living with my crazy dad for 2 years. I think you're nuts and think you're Bruce Wayne.
I'm Bruce Wayne.
Yeah. But again, aside from that, which is it's a quibble. I won't say it's a minor quibble, but it is by no means a story-breaking quibble. This one worked well. There are 2 backups that alternated in this book. One that was in issues 1 and 3, and one that was in issues 2 and 4. A grifter backup in 1 and 3, and a Red Hood backup in 2 and 4. The grifter is Matthew Rosenberg and Carmine Giandomenico, and the Red Hood is Josh Williamson and Giannis Milio Giannis. That will be the creative team, by the way, that will go on to do Future State Gotham, or at least will be involved in it heavily.
conceptually, the Red Hood book or the Red Hood story did not make a lot of sense to me, in that the magistrate hates vigilantes unless the vigilantes are working for the magistrate.
I have
Fascists don't make sense.
Yeah, I kind of have less of a problem with that because there is that idea in a lot of these sort of fascist ideologies that you're one of the good ones.
Mm.
So I think that there is something there that if you're willing to be, pardon the, but a race traitor, not that this is a race, but you know what I mean. If you're willing to turn on your own people, we won't like you, but we'll accept you.
And we'll even let you keep the mask.
And the fact that Jason, as it turns out, is working for Bruce Wayne, which is one of the big points when we get to Future State Gotham. Jason thinks he's working for Bruce. It's not Bruce.
Who are you working for?
Who has the same face as Bruce Wayne and is a giant dick who's trying to always make Bruce look bad.
It's not Hush, is it?
Oh, it's Hush, baby.
God damn it. God damn it.
Yep. Jason has been suckered by Hush.
We are not reading Future State Gotham. I refuse to take part in that story.
Meanwhile, the Grifter backup
I like that one a lot.
It has some really neat ideas. I like it. It is one of the examples of the right hand not necessarily knowing what the left hand is doing, because the Luke Fox that appears there doesn't line up with the Luke Fox that we're going to see in next Batman.
It was fun as hell, though. Matt Rosenberg can write him some good, funny comics.
Oh, it's great fun. Rosenberg, who would go on to write the Wildcats series that was after this as part of Infinite Frontier, clearly loved those characters. And Grifter, as this sort of scumbag with a heart of gold, is great. The send up of the deck of cards that existed during I think it was Desert Storm, where
no. That was during the second Iraq War, and also maybe during Desert Storm as well.
I might be mixing them up, but okay. But yeah, the deck of cards that has all the most wanted vigilantes and Huntress as the Queen of Clubs, and a great to see Helena just smacking Grifter around. He just winds up being a punching bag throughout his entire serial, and it's fun. The story really works. It really flows. John Minico draws the hell out of it.
Yes.
It's one of the most enjoyable of the backups.
And this book is better served by having just one of these backups instead of two.
Yeah.
Because it's hard to call them backups in that they are full stories.
Yeah, this is more dual features than backups. Do we have anything else?
That heavy silence means.
Sorry, no. I'd have one thing. I was trying to remember it. Switching back to the main feature real quick. One of the plots of the magistrates in this, of their whole surveillance thing, the way it's initially laid out does feel like a bit of a slight Dark Knight thing, where it is like a mass surveillance. It's little tiny drones instead of cell phones, but it does feel, whether intentionally or not, kind of a reference for that. Even like the way they visualize it, you get the same like kind of screens of all of the different stuff they're observing.
Now, this heavy silence means it's time to be Future State Dark Detective on the big board.
We are at 702 stories on the big board.
God damn.
Number 1 is Post-Crisis Origin of Batman, Batman Year 1.
Coming in at a sexy 69 is Batman Annual number 4 from Volume 3, Every Day.
At 150 is last week's Detective Comics 1027 anthology. At 300 is the Villains United miniseries.
Coming in real high, not nearly as close to the bottom as it once was. At 420, it's Batgirl Volume 1, Number 2, Please Help Me Not to Die.
At 450 is the Escape to Blackgate Nightwing No Man's Land arc. And at 702, at the very bottom, it's Three Jokers.
Whoa, Nelly, what a terrible book. I'm torn between this story and the next one as story of the night.
Yeah, I think there's a near thing there. So halfway at this point is War Paint, Batman Volume 1, 484, 485. The Return of Black Mask, the first part of the lead up to Nightfall.
I think better than that.
I think so too. 300 is Villains United. I love Villains United.
The art in this is better.
True.
I think.
And you know what? For as much as I love Villains United, you could read this story on its own, and it reads like a good Elseworlds. Villains United doesn't stand on its own very well. With all the Infinite Crisis stuff going on, as good as it is, if that book didn't have that and it was just, hey, let's introduce the Secret Six, that would probably be higher. But it loses points for being bordering on impenetrable without a lot of backstory. So
I don't think I would put this higher than Batman 89 Shadows at 283.
Okay. So then we're between 283 and 300. How do you feel like it would stand up against 291, Cosmic Odyssey, Jim Starlin, Mike Mignola? Speaking of art, the Dark Side story, the Anti-Life Equation, and Batman decks Orion for being a racist asshole at the end of it. I could see it going in between that and the first appearance of the Scarecrow at 292.
All right, so we want to see the new 292?
I think so.
All right.
Our second story of the night is The Great Train Robbery. This is Future State Catwoman numbers 1 to 2. The writer is Ram V, with art and colors by Otto Schmidt, letters by Tom Napolitano, and edited by Ben Abernathy, Jessica Chen, and Ben Mears. The cover dates are March to April of 2021. Catwoman and her strays are preparing an audacious heist. Free a bunch of kids taken by the magistrate from the East End to be sent to a re-education center. But the train the kids are on have other higher profile prisoners. And Selina is about to get mixed up with some other people trying to liberate someone else from the train. Problematic creator watch. Artist Otto Schmidt. There's a weird whole thing about this guy. I looked it up because I remember seeing something about it, and I'm not 100% sure if he himself is problematic or has problematic associations. He is a native Russian who was involved in doing a propaganda comic a decade-ish ago, but also he has worked with people who've done some truly repugnant comic art. And I'm not sure how much of this is him and how much of this is, well, if you say no to Putin, Putin makes you disappear. So I'm problematic creator watching him because there is the distinct possibility that he is an apologist for the Russian regime and has had some other unfortunate associations. But I want to put a somewhat of an asterisk on it because I couldn't find any primary source on his problematicness.
Weird and bad.
Yeah, but Catwoman, this at only 2 issues, because this was a 2-month event, so a lot of these books double ship to get the 4 issues. Or a handful of them double ship, most of them are 2 issues. This one does a great job as a good, exciting heist story over 2 issues. It's actually, as it turns out, 2 separate heists that wind up coming together as one big heist by the end.
Convergence.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
That's a different event.
Ho 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 ho.
Here we get little hints of the stuff that Romvi is doing as the writer of Catwoman. We see Cheshire Cat and a couple of the other characters that Selina is hanging out with in her main book. But mostly this is Selina on a train fighting her way through the cars against the magistrate at the back of the train. Well, at the front of the train, someone else has infiltrated and is looking for a different prisoner. Selina is there just to save these kids, not realizing that up in the front car, and I'll spoil it because it's a 5-year-old comic and we just spoil stuff here. Yeah, is Bruce Wayne, having survived his apparent death at the end of Dark Detective. Somehow both he and Peacekeeper 1 survive the massive explosion of the magistrate headquarters, and Bruce is in prison at the front of the train, and Talia has infiltrated, claiming that she works for the Gotham City Council, and she's there to save Bruce.
And also, Onomatopoeia is there.
Yes.
Yeah. He winds up teaming up with Selina and doing his onomatopoeia thing.
Rompi likes those like weird minor villains. It's fun he's there.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, he used all kinds of wild characters in his detective run and his Catwoman run. This is the least complicated of tonight's 3 books.
Mm-hmm.
This is a real straightforward action story, and we get the big reveal at the end of issue 1 that Bruce is on the train, and then issue 2, about halfway through, Bruce and Selina run into each other, and I love their first meeting when he smiles at her and just says, I guess cats aren't the only ones that have more than one life. And she slaps him and then she kisses him. It sums up so much about the two of their relationship just perfectly.
Before she knows that he's still alive, like we see her haunted by his memory.
Mm-hmm.
Like the thought of, am I doing the right thing by, being on this train? Am I doing the right thing by possibly getting caught in this explosion? Well, it's what he would have done. And that, oh boy, that got me right in the feels.
This story teases some of the stuff that we won't really see in any of the books, the main stories that we're covering tonight. The stuff about Talia working with the Resistance. We'll see some of the Resistance stuff in the backups on the next story, but the Resistance was sort of front and center in Nightwing and Robin Eternal. But it's not front and center here. We just know that Talia is working with them, and her plan was to get Bruce off the train and get him to the Resistance. But Bruce is Bruce about this at the end, and he winds up getting away, but he's willing to take a chance to not get away to help Selina escape. Mm-hmm. Both because it's Selina and because he is willing to sacrifice himself to help the people that Selina is willing to help.
The character work, like across the board on this, is really like everyone is very spot on. Like Talia isn't super active in this. She's really just, but it is very spot on with her. Just like doesn't care about anything, just getting Bruce out. Everybody else on this train can die. It doesn't matter.
And the two of
them,
them,
the fact that Bruce doesn't like that also doesn't matter.
Yep. And Bruce, okay, the rules are the same. No killing. Oh, even after all these years, you're still holding on to that. Yes. I guess she was just kind of hoping that maybe 2 years of whatever had made him a little less insistent on that whole one rule that defines his life thing.
To be fair, in Dark Detective, he does blow up a lot of magistrate peacekeepers.
He does. The villains here and in a lot of the backups and all the magistrate are fairly faceless, generic goons. We don't get a lot of reason behind any of them. Even Peacekeeper 1 is fairly one note, which, when we learn more about him, is actually makes sense because he is not quite all there and is monomaniacally obsessed with his view of order and taking down the vigilantes. I love also that, Selena, another reason that Selena and Bruce work so well together is they are both people who swear that they're loners who need to just do whatever they do by themselves, but collect strays, in Selena's case, literally, as she calls them, constantly. They are people who seek this found family and are willing to do anything for their found family, no matter how much they say that they are loners through and through.
Fun story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we can go a little shorter on this one because the first and the last are longer. And there's nothing wrong with a story that gets in, tells its story, and gets out. This story was not intended to be the high sci-fi, high drama that the other two tonight are. This is just a fun little heist story.
And some people just, it seems like, intuitively know how to write comics. And I think Rom V is one of those people, right? This is early in his career relatively, but it's just an easy, good read. And some of the stories tonight are not. They're more of a slog. It just does its thing. And this is also not hampered with those backups. It is just two 20-page issues and you're done. It does not aspire to be more than what it is, which is a good high story with some good characters in this, alternate future. And with that final note, it's time to put Future State Catwoman, the Great Train Robbery, on the big board.
Whether this is above or below Dark Detective, I think it's either not much higher or much lower. These feel like they are in a similar range here.
I don't think I would put this above Blue Wall at 272 because I think Blue Wall does have more to say. But I am torn as to whether it is above or below Dark Detective. Because Dark Detective is trying to do more.
While I agree it's trying to do more, as I said, I think there is something charming about just telling a fun action story that has really good character. I think the character coupled with the fun adventure story or crime caper story puts it a little above for me, but not by much.
Does it beat does it beat Shadows at 283?
The Harvey Dent stuff there is great. But again, this is a really straightforward, solid 2 issues. That meanders.
Oh, that it does.
Okay. Here is my, and Matt, you can weigh in on this because, we're in here. Batman Hellboy Starman at 275. Another 2 issues. Above or below? Because I think that might be the spot.
It's tough.
I might give the nod to this simply because that is 2 issues, 1 issue of which is Batman and 1 issue of which is not.
Yeah.
This one is Gotham through and through in both issues. They're very similar in that it's just 2 issues of fun, superhero-y action. But I think that this is a pure Batman story is the thing that gives it the edge and makes it the new 275.
All right. Sounds good.
Will the mentioning the stuff with the backups, as much as I do enjoy those, reading this in trade really affects that because actually trying to read this issue by issue, those are a massive pain in the ass to follow.
Especially being every other issue. And yeah, it was an easier read now reading them with all of it together. Our final story of the night is The Next Batman. This is Future State, The Next Batman numbers 1 to 4. The writer is John Ridley, with art by Nick Darrington and Laura Braga, colors by Tamra Bonvillain and Arif Prianto, letters by Clayton Cowles, and edited by Ben Abernathy and Dave Wilgus. The cover dates are March to April of 2021. Jace Fox, Gotham's new Batman, is the Magistrate's public enemy number 1. While struggling with his own family issues and trying to make up for the sins of his past, Jace stumbles onto a couple who've killed someone while wearing masks, meaning an instant death sentence. Jace will try to get them to the GCPD rather than leaving them for the magistrate, but he might die alongside people who are more than willing to see him die too. So, the problem I find with this book is it is trying to do way too much.
Oh, buddy. We reviewed this, and I can remember the central complaint being there is way too much Fox family drama in this book, in trying to also be, Batman.
In trying to introduce this Batman, we spend so much time away from him, so much time with his mom and his brother and his sister, and with Detective Chubb, and with all this other stuff. This is clearly there because Ridley was expecting to be writing Batman. He was expecting to basically be introducing all these concepts that are going to be explained for an extended period of time. So now you kind of have these question marks from this story that will be explained when he can do his massive run on Batman. Only 5G doesn't happen, so he winds up getting the other Batman title that doesn't last as long. So a lot of this is dealt with there. It's not the central thrust of anything. And so it's messy. I went back and I looked at our initial reviews of this after I read it. And I was glad to say that other than that, the thing that I thought as I was reading this, we said in those reviews. At the beginning of issue 4, we get this moment where Jace is with this couple who killed the guy who killed their daughter.
Who they say.
They say killed their daughter, fair. And Jace says, I have to get you to City Hall where the GCPD will pick you up. 32 blocks, 3 miles. As a concept, that should have been the beginning of issue 2.
Yep.
That issue 1 sets up the premise. It introduces Jace. You get the murder that they commit. You get a little bit of Fox family drama just so you get Jace's world. He catches them at the beginning of issue 2, and then most of 2, 3, and 4 is him using his wits, what tech he has, and his skills to get these people to City Hall. And you get a thrilling action story. But instead, you wind up with 2 issues of over-dramatic dialogue and character motivations that seem to come and go.
A betrayal that comes out of nowhere and is dealt with in like 2 pages.
If we had gotten this to be a much simpler, more direct story that instead of building the whole world was focused on explaining who this new Batman is, I think this would have been a more successful story.
Explaining why he's Batman?
Yeah.
I think that was there. It's teased, but again, I think that was Ridley trying to tease you with something that he thought he would really be able to dig into, and he wanted you to be wondering that when you started reading his run on Batman. That didn't happen, and that became just his run on this next Batman series. We covered the first arc of that next Batman series. And so many of the ideas here are really interesting core ideas.
Mhm.
The idea of a black man as Batman is a really interesting idea. Someone who has a very different legacy, but a legacy nonetheless. In his case, the Fox name. The Fox family drama itself is not a bad idea. It's just trying to squeeze 5 pounds of Fox family drama on top of what is already 5 pounds of a Batman story into a 7 pound bag.
And I know, Matt, this is your favorite thing that I like to do. I just want to state for the record, there is never, ever, 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 ever in a U.S. court of law going to be any sort of shoot on sight law or order that's going to be upheld. That's not how any of that works. So, yes, I believe the ACLU is going to be able to successfully challenge any shoot on sight law.
I want to believe that.
Something. Gotham was never fully reintegrated after No Man's Land. It's not technically part of the United States.
Well, look, all you have to do to write around that is just say, "Oh, we're under a state of martial law."
Sure. Yeah.
Martial law is the absence of normal law and order.
Mhm.
You could theoretically do something like a shoot vigilantes on sight sort of thing, but that is again the absence of traditional law and order.
And here again, as we said with the others, the villains are thin. You were spending so much time with all these other things. I kind of would have liked to take a few pages away from some of the other stuff so we can have a moment or two with the guy Stans who is leading the magistrate squad after Jace. Because there's a moment where he is with Peacekeeper 1, and Peacekeeper 1 himself is like, what part of shoot on sight don't you understand? Like, well, I wanted to offer him the chance to surrender. What part of shoot on sight do you not understand? This guy is willing to ask that question. It feels like there should be more to that character, but there isn't. It just seems like it's there so we can see what a real asshole Peacekeeper 1 is,
Mhm.
and less about developing those other characters. The last issue, which is that, the chase that I'm talking about, so much of it is silent and it looks nice. I'm not complaining about the art, but it feels really rushed when we've had a similar chase the issue before of Jace running away from the magistrate. Granted, there it was just trying to escape versus here where it's trying to get somewhere, but still, 2 chases in 2 issues.
Can you imagine the fun somebody like Hickman would have had? All the maps and information you would have gotten about the route, the obstacles on the route, the detours that they would have inevitably had to go through.
I would love to have seen that again. If you had 3 issues and you see Jace look at a heads up display and it's laid out and it's like, all right, we're gonna go here, 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 and then you see him regularly checking the heads up display and you see the detours. That would have been really cool to look at.
You could have done that in like a 2-page spread, and you could have put panels in like different spots showing action.
You're making a better comic, Will. Don't do that.
Sorry. Shit.
It's also something where you have, I get the idea of, having this be these aggrieved parents or allegedly aggrieved parents, whatever actually happened. Let's take their word for it, aggrieved parents. But you have a very similar setup in the first issue of this with the kids who are getting ready to get blooded into the Bane gang. And you could very easily just have it kick off there with the magistrates chasing after these 2 kids because they were trying to commit crime in masks. And it's not even necessarily I don't know how, like it is establishing stuff. It just for the amount of space that there has, it's unnecessary to switch. You could have just kept with those kids because both of them are interesting people to follow in this situation. Both of them are people who don't, I mean, no one deserves to get shot on sight. Like that's baseline, but like they're already both sympathetic groups of two more or less civilians. Switching is kind of unnecessary.
And we also, by the way, the weirdness that issue 1 is one artist and then 2 through 4 are the other. Sometimes that happens. Sometimes an artist has to drop out, but it is somewhat disjointed that it's only one issue from Darrington and then 3 from Braga. That's a really good point. They would have saved page space.
Well, when I remembered when I was thinking of what to do for this episode, that was what I had remembered this being. I thought it was the kids, and then actually reading it was like, oh no, they switch to a different group. It's just an interesting choice.
Now, there are also not just 2, but 4 backups.
Oh, that's too many backups.
And again, issues 1 and 3 have 2 backups, and issues 2 and 4 have 2 other backups. Issue 1 has an Outsiders backup from Brandon Thomas and Sumit Kumar, and an Arkham Knights backup from Paul Jenkins and Jack Herbert. Issues 2 and 4 have a Batgirls backup from Vita Ayala and Anike, I'm not sure how it's pronounced, and a Gotham City Sirens backup from Paula Sevenbergen and Rob Haynes and Emanuela Lupacino. I will be completely honest. I think if you had done instead issue 1 and 3 just having the Arkham Knights, and issues 2 and 4 just having the Batgirls, I think you would have been better off.
Yeah.
The Outsiders one isn't bad.
The art's really nice in it.
Oh yeah, the
story makes no sense. But the art's nice.
The story only makes sense if you had been reading Brian Edward Hill's Outsiders. But again, you have Black Lightning there as this sort of lightning ghost, while he is contemporarily in the Supermax prison as a normal dude in Batgirls. And also, you have Killer Croc in the prison, and Two-Face in the prison in Batgirls, but also out and as members of the Arkham Knights in Arkham Knights. That one...
Zaz popped up in 2 places as well.
You're right. Yes, he's in there too. Now, that could all sort of be written off as Arkham Knights takes place after Batgirls, but it doesn't seem like it does. It seems like they are roughly contemporary, but all those guys are in multiple places.
And I think you put that on an editorial that just says to everybody, hey, just pitch some stories, have some fun. We're not going to have a firm hand on any of this. It's just whatever.
The Gotham City Sirens one is, not good.
That's the one with the robot, right?
Yeah. The Catwoman there does not line up in the least with the Catwoman that we see in Catwoman. We see Ivy there, and she's also, again, in the prison in Batgirls. But I don't know if she pops up anywhere else. I don't know if she's in Harley. I don't think so. I think that might be the only real place Ivy is. But Ivy doesn't read like Ivy. That one was just a real mess. I like the Batgirls one. I like Steph in deep cover and Cass being really angry, not realizing that she didn't betray them, that she was deep cover, and them rescuing Oracle from the prison and not being willing to leave anyone behind. And Vita Ayala, they get those characters. And it does a good job of setting up and playing with some of the stuff in Nightwing, that Babs is out here, and then she's with the Resistance and Dick in the Nightwing book. It's coherent with that. That makes sense. While the Arkham Knights doesn't necessarily line up, I think the idea that the Arkham Knight, a character who only appeared really in that Tomasi Arkham Knight arc in Tech, and then this is their only other appearance in the mainstream DC universe ish. The idea that let's just give all of these lunatic villains a goal and a common enemy and let me treat them like human beings and they'll actually function is pretty neat. And it's one of the few stories that seems to write Zsasz the same way that Alan Grant conceived of Zsasz. That Zsasz isn't just a knife pervert, as so many people seem to write him. He is this thinking, this intellectual who just happens to only really feel like he's connecting with people when he's stabbing them to death. I think that a lot of this is trying to paint a very wide tapestry of a world, all of these books together, and I think a firmer editorial hand in figuring out where each of these characters were and or just putting dates that Batgirls takes place in January of 2027 and you say Arkham Knights is May, and a lot of my problems just go away. But it more felt like just nobody was particularly paying attention to who was in multiple stories.
I do wonder if that would have gotten a further pass if this really had been running up to like a new I guess it was running up to new status quo, but a new status quo more firmly tied to these books.
Yeah.
They had to know this wasn't, at least by the time it was getting like, okay, we're actually doing this. I'm fascinated by 5G of like how the timeline of that actually, like, of it failing actually happened. And I don't think we'll ever fully get the explanation. But this had to like go to print somewhere in between there. And I think they just were like, it doesn't matter really. So
it's funny. This is our second week in a row of talking about stories that were supposed to lead into 5G that didn't. One of the stories in the Detective Comics 1027 is one of the lead-ins to 5Gs, the Dan Jurgens, Kevin Nolan thing where you see the universe shatter into the 5 timelines. That's in there. 2 weeks in a row, we're talking about the weirdness that could have been with 5G. But hey, as Will said last time, that got us first night and second night. So,
and as long as we get a third night, I'm gonna be happy. Oh, I think that means it's time for Future State next Batman on the big board.
All right. Let's start. I Am Batman Begins, the first arc of the Ridley I Am Batman, is at 382.
Art was far, far worse than that.
Yes, that's why that book is down so low, because it had like 4 or 5 artists, and one, maybe 2 of them was good, and the rest of them were not.
Fascinating to look back on how maybe Ridley, as an Academy Award-winning screenwriter, was not helped in this particular stretch, in both having artists to work with and in dealing with editorial. Whereas somebody like Tom King has basically been given everything he's ever wanted.
We could at some point, even if we didn't do the entire miniseries, could do issue 4 of Ridley's The Other History of the DC Universe. That is Montoya's story and the history of the DC Universe and her part in it. And that's a really interesting comic.
I think his writing is a bit rough in spots, but yeah, he got done wrong. I'm gonna state that as my official position. He got done wrong.
Yeah, you're not gonna hear a disagreement from me. So I think, as you said, even though the art is somewhat inconsistent here, it is considerably stronger than I Am Batman Begins. So I think we're going up from there.
And where'd you say that was?
382.
382. Yes, there we are.
Can you find a ceiling?
I'm gonna say When in Rome, 329.
Okay. Super Heavy at 335. Above or below?
Above.
How about in between In the Name of the Father, the first meeting of John Kent and Damien, and Super Heavy?
The new 335. Barely above average, I think is a good spot for this book.
Yeah, this is a book that, again, there's somewhere in the multiverse where 5G happened, and this is considered something like absolute. And I think that is it would be a very interesting world to see. To see what
And Dan Jurgens is in his 30th issue of his Batman.
we've got a Batman in the 30s book that runs regularly, a whole old school universe where Wonder Woman was the first superhero, which is I've been saying interesting a lot tonight, but it's sort of what I'm thinking about this whole project was it was just thought provoking. But putting Wonder Woman in as the first superhero would have been a very different DC universe. A DC universe built on the shoulders of Wonder Woman.
Batman definitely punches Hitler.
Yes, please.
That's the cover of Bat hyphen Man 50. Batman punching Hitler.
I just want Batman going in and setting off smoke bombs in, all the German Bund offices in Gotham, and then just letting these guys run out and then just pounding on them, pounding on the American Nazis as they run out of the building. Batman
Fucking
teams up with Jack
American
Kirby.
Nazis.
I just want Batman and Jack Kirby fighting back to back against Nazis.
Think of all the alternate covers. It would have been beautiful. I would trade the entire Absolute line for that.
Matt, thank you as ever for coming on the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
That does it for this week. Next week, it's 3 of the stories from the Silver Age that were adapted into that 1960s Bat manga.
We're going to be quitting the human race, friends.
It's going to be wild. Remember, you can support the podcast on Patreon at patreon.com/batchat with Matt and Will, where you can get shout outs, bonus content, pick a story, and even come on the show. We'd like to thank those Patreon backers: Dan Grote, Josh Wheel, Mrs. Abigail Hartbaum, Asma Fangirl, Tony Thornley,
Go Aggies.
Sam Hopper,
Go to bed, Sam. It is so late.
John Wickham,
John, you beautiful boy, you beautiful baby.
Tim Rooney, Giorgio Reggioli, David Wheel,
World's greatest gray belt.
Alexander Wheel, Matt McThorn,
Hey, McThorny, this guy right here. What a nice time.
Dan Offer, Nate Randell, Daniel Mosley, Ross Holmes,
Mr. Random Ace.
Will Crisp,
Me compadre.
Carlos Cordova, Jordan Jennings, Charlie Etheridge Nunn, Sean Shambly, The Final Wraith,
The scariest wraith.
and Kyle Still
Still the one.
for their support. This show is available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music/Audible, YouTube Music, Podbean, and on comicsxf.com, where new episodes drop every Thursday. You can find me on Blue Sky, where I talk about comics and other random things, and Letterboxd, where I review all the movies I watch, both at MattLaz1013.
Oh, you can find me at the good place at Will Nevin on Blue Sky, and still at the bad place on Twitter at Will Nevin. And Matt and I have still not been able to find each other in Goodreads, and I'm very confused at this point as why that is not working. I think Matt is dodging me. But I'm gonna get something to drink, and then I'm gonna go to bed. Good night, Huntsville.
And be sure to visit ComicsXF at comicsxf.com or ComicsXF on Blue Sky for our weekly Friday Bat Chat roundup of new Bat books, for my other show, the ComicsXF Interview Podcast, where my longtime best friend Dan Grote and I interview comics creators, retailers, publishers, journalists, and other related tradespeople, as well as all the other stuff Will and I are writing. And stay safe out there, folks. Gotham is not a place to be after dark.